So, I just watched this brand new film that just came out on Netflix called Rebel Ridge. This is a brand new sort of action thriller movie about this Marine who stumbles into this town to try to bail out his brother when he is stopped by police and they illegally seize his cash and just kind of start doing these corrupt, terrible things to him. And that event leads us down a very kind of dark path where our character here, who is played by Aaron Pierce, who's really, really good in the movie, has to kind of uncover the corruption that is going on within this town, and you sort of get a very different kind of revenge story, especially from Netflix. Going into this movie, I kind of thought it would be another generic Netflix action film. We get a ton of them. There is almost a new one every single week, and both the title and the generic poster for this movie made me believe that this was going to be that. But surprisingly, this movie is actually a little bit more than that. It's still not something that I found to be totally thought-provoking and just incredible, but it's a movie that I had a lot more fun with and a lot more positive thoughts about than I usually get out of a lot of these Netflix action movies. The main thing I want to talk about here is Aaron Pierce, who is the lead in this film. He plays this grizzled Marine veteran who has sort of this mysterious past, and as you watch him and slowly uncover who he actually is, he does such a good job of selling the mystery of self here. He's a badass, but he's also kind of calming, and you feel sort of comfortable with him, which I always like in movies like this with action stars. Don Johnson, who plays kind of like the main bad police dude, is also really good in that role. It's a role that's kind of simple. You've seen characters like this a million times before, but it is still really, really useful in this movie. It works. This kind of asshole, corrupt, racist police officer. This movie does not have as much action in it as you might expect from a big Netflix action blockbuster. There is action, especially in the third half of this movie, and when you get it, it is really, really well done. It's kind of tight and feels more realistic than most other action films. For example, when people get shot, it feels like they're being hit with bullets and their skin is being ripped apart. It is gruesome and kind of brutal, and you feel it more so than a lot of other action movies where people are just getting shot and flying around. You know what I mean? The action here really does work because of that, and it adds a lot to this story that in and of itself feels very grounded in reality and feels kind of relevant. I do have a few complaints about this movie. The one thing is, I think it's a little too long. This movie could have been a little bit shorter. Thankfully, this is a Netflix film. It's a streaming movie. I feel like if I saw this in a movie theater, my complaint about it being too long would have held more weight. But because this is on streaming, I got to watch this in a couple different sittings, so it didn't feel as long. But still, I think a little bit over 2 hours, that's a little bit of a bloated runtime. It could have been squeezed down to like an hour and 45 minutes. I also think at times this movie felt like a TV show, just the way that it was shot. It felt like network television at times. It didn't feel like a gigantic movie made by one of the richest and biggest movie studios in the world, aka Netflix. But this movie definitely does way more than you expect going into it. Yet again, when you look at Netflix, a lot of these movies that they do, like Extraction with Chris Hemsworth, a lot of these big action blockbusters that they push out, they almost feel like they were made by AI. They feel like they typed into, like, ChatGPT, write me the most generic action script ever that people will want to shut their brains off and watch for a couple hours, and it just pumps them out a bunch of these movies. And it was really, really surprising to go into this one and see that they actually tried to make a movie. They tried to make a good movie with a good story, and they weren't just like, look, Chris Hemsworth, he's got muscles. Aaron Pierce has muscles, but he also has character, baby, and character is what gets me seated. It's what gets me excited to watch these movies. Give me a character, give me a story, give me a world, and I am here for it. And Netflix, you actually did something good here. You made a very, very good movie that I am excited to give a good review for all of you. I'm excited to recommend all of you go on Netflix and check out Rebel Ridge, because this is a movie that is worth your time and worth your, at least, solid interest. Go watch the first, 15-20 minutes of it, see if it's your type of thing. I will give Rebel Ridge a 4 out of 5. This is one of the best Netflix movies of the year so far, for a couple weeks, because there's that movie His Three Daughters coming out, which is apparently a masterpiece. It's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes with 50 reviews. That's kind of unheard of. So good on you, Netflix. I give Netflix a lot of shit on this channel. A lot of shit. Not as much shit as Disney. You guys have not reached Disney levels of low. But Netflix, you're just one of those companies that you put out a lot of garbage. You put out a lot of just sort of ground level basic stuff that is just made to kind of fit the algorithm and catch people's eye for 30 seconds, but not meant to actually invoke kind of artistic emotions in the realm of cinema and TV shows and tell great stories, which is the entire point of why I like movies. But I get the idea that most people on Netflix just want to watch Love Island and all that bullshit. It's sad. Society, guys. Society is sad. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more notifications. I'll see you in the next one.